This crazy right-wing lunatic who has, like millions of people on a mass email, doxed me. He like sent out my address, my phone number, all to all of his followers. And there's nothing that anyone could do about it because he didn't explicitly say anything other than, this is what she does. So we had to move.
You moved house?
Yeah, it was brutal.
So Laura, people in the UK might be most familiar with you for impersonating Melania Trump on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert for a decade.
Yes.
What are the key components to nailing a convincing Melania?
First, you have to just turn the lights down a little bit. You know what I mean? You just have to dim the lights. You got to squint, I'll make sure. And then it's really a pucker. She constantly looks like a little confused and not happy to be there.
So it's a pucker rather than a pout.
I think it's a pucker. It's a pucker / pout. But the eyes are the most important. It's really the squinting of the eyes, the narrowing.
Is it really hard to impersonate someone who is, well, rarely seen and heard for a start?
Yeah.
And then when they are seen and heard, it's never an unguarded moment. You never catch them off script or unrehearsed.
Yes, rarely. I mean, they had that one clip they got about her talking about Christmas when she was like, I don't care about effing Christmas, where I was like, okay, she's alive. But, this character that we created, she's a little bit more of like a Borscht Belt comedian. I don't really impersonate her to a T. I've made her, I honestly think we are sort of all, America is reluctantly married to Donald Trump. We're all Melania, just hoping he doesn't like screw us any more than he already has. So that's sort of the place that we come from with that impression.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you think that the Trumps themselves have any sense of humour?
I mean, no. About themselves?
About anything?
No. Sadly, it's all a joke, but I don't think they have a sense of humor about themselves. My gosh, he gets his feelings hurt so easily. It's crazy. It's astonishing to me. And then people will say, women are too emotional to hold office. Have you seen the men in our country? Just the biggest crybabies of all. They're like, we'll start a war because you hurt my feelings.
Yes, we do know they have a sense of the absurd, at least.
Well, they are the absurd.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the idea that we're all married to him. I think that's
reluctantly married to him.
It's a very good point, actually.
We're all Melania.
Not long now.
Yeah.
On a serious note, though, Laura, you have experienced the dark side of the MAGA movement as well, and been trolled quite extensively, and your personal safety has been threatened. Can you just in brief tell us what happened?
Yeah, I think the internet has really emboldened people to speak with no actual courage. They say things they would never say to you in real life. So when I first started doing it, there was a lot of backlash. There was a lot of praise. That felt nice. I would say the majority of the messages that I got were really, really positive. But then there's always the people who are just deeply furious and, threatened me, threatened my kid, who was at the time, a baby. And to me, I just go, what do you think is going to happen? Do you think I'm going to go like, oh, you want to murder me? Actually, you know what? You're right. I love him. It's just so absurd. And then it's interesting. I did it for years. And there was one particular sketch that we did that coincided with me hosting a benefit for women's reproductive rights. And so this crazy right-wing lunatic who has, like millions of people on a mass email, doxed me. He like sent out my address, my phone number, all to all of his followers. And there's nothing that anyone could do about it because he didn't explicitly say anything other than, this is what she does. So we had to move.
You moved house?
Yeah, it was brutal.
That's incredibly dramatic.
I know. Well, that's me.
Well, no, but you must have been genuinely very, very worried about your safety.
We were, yeah. And for me, my daughter, frankly, if I had known people would have reacted that way, I don't know if I would have done it, But at a certain point, we stopped for a little while. We were just like, ugh.
Because of the threats?
Well, kind of. For me, we just slowed down. We didn't do it quite as much, And then when he was blissfully gone for those 4 years, we had a beautiful goodbye to her, and they wrote this musical number, and it was amazing. My friend Michael Cruz Kane is an amazing comedian. He wrote it. And then we couldn't believe it that America did it again. Oops, we did it again. So then we went back to it. But yeah, occasionally I'll get a bad one. But for the most part, I think they've calmed down.
Do you have someone who filters those things for you so you don't have to read them all?
I do. I don't look at my direct messages anymore. I have somebody who will occasionally go in, but she's also my friend. So sometimes she'll be like, I just need to take a break from that. And, you know, I just try to ignore the comments if they're negative.
How strange is it to you, as someone who's worked in the entertainment industry, if your entire career, 25 odd years, that just because you're playing a character to entertain other people, to satirize something, you have threats on your life? I mean, you're not a politician.
No.
You're not a campaigner. You're not an activist. No. Well, no more than the rest of us are.
Yeah.
But the idea that someone working in entertainment is threatened in that way, that's very new, isn't it?
Well, I mean, look what happened to Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel. You know, the fact, I really do feel like one of the first things that happens in like a fascist regime is they start silencing comedians and artists and journalists. And I think we have, from the top down, just made that possible. I mean, for him to be able to say, get this person off the air because I don't like how they talk about me, that's psychotic.
We should just recap for anyone who doesn't know that Stephen Colbert's show, highly rated, highly respected, kind of era-defining show, finished in May. Shortly after, he'd made some comments about potential political involvement in a merger in the media sector. I'm taking it from what you just said that you think that is not an accident of timing.
I don't think it is, you know, and what, you know, with Jimmy Kimmel as well, they took him off the air and it wasn't until the people rose up that, and I think part of it too is they had already, you know, Stephen had already been not renewed. And there was many reasons that they gave other than the one I think is true. But I think people went like, oh, okay, I guess. And then when it happened to Kimmel, I feel like people were like, this is crazy. We can't do this.
What was the reaction like inside the show, inside the Late Show, when you were told that it was being cancelled?
I mean, I don't want to speak for anybody else, but it really is a family. You know, some of those guys have been in that building since David Letterman. That's a really long time. And, you know, Stephen just engendered such a sense of family. So everyone was deeply sad. You know, it's hard for any ending to happen, but when people are loving their jobs and good at their jobs and loving each other, it's just so hard.
And do you think it sort of goes against the purpose of satire, really, in entertainment, to have such a level of control?
Yes. We have to be able to have dissent. We have to be able to, in a comical way. I mean, that's all we've done forever. Since there has been, you know, an organization, there have been people making fun of it. And we need it. I think we need it.
Now, you are in London for your one-woman show, Nobody Cares.
That's right.
What could people expect from the show, Laura?
I think, you know, I really wrote it for women our age, you know, but also for young women. I talk a lot about, I started acting on Broadway when I was 18 years old, playing a lot of like wide-eyed ingenues. And then I sort of carried that into my real life. So I talk a lot about people-pleasing, which I know is something that a lot of young women do. And it's hard to break through. I'm on like a people-pleasing recovery journey. So, and there's very funny comedic songs that I wrote with my music director, Todd Almond. So they can expect to laugh. It is not a musical. I want to be very clear. I will not be singing anything from Broadway. There is foul language. There is adult content. Occasionally I'll see just like the sweetest elderly woman in the audience waiting for me to sing I Could Have Danced All Night. And I'm definitely not singing about that.
No, you're going to melt her ears with some filth.
But I will, exactly. But I'll say, this happened last night where I saw her and I was like, oh no. And then by the end, she was so into it and so happy. So people will expect to laugh, have a really good time. You know, there's a few moments where I talk about women's issues that we don't really talk about, you know, pregnancy and childbirth and perimenopause and how people love to go up to a mother and just be like, I want you to know that you're doing it wrong. I did it right and you're doing it wrong. So I talk a lot about that. And then ultimately, I have a song at the end that's a disco song called Recovering Ingenue. And I think many of us are. You know, you don't have to be an actress to have played an ingenue.
Absolutely, absolutely. So I might take it that there's a little bit of autobiography in there.
It's definitely an autobiographical comedy show, but you don't have to like Broadway or know anything about Broadway to enjoy it. You know, I've had a very particular life. I have been married 3 times, just like every little girl dreams, based on essentially people pleasing. You know, I say like I responded to men's desire for me like I was being drafted. You know, I didn't have a choice. I didn't want to go, but I was going to fulfill my obligation to my country. So, and I think a lot of people can relate to that. I had a lot of young women there last night, and they were talking about the expectation of being good girls. And a lot of times, I know for me, I did my worst stuff when I was trying to be a good girl because I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. And so I was disingenuous. You end up hurting people more if you don't just speak the truth immediately. So learning to like stand in our power as we get older is so important. And the last line I say is in the song is, you're allowed to get older. And I feel like in our culture right now, we're sort of not. Everybody wants to look like an Instagram filter. And, you know, actually somebody said in a comment last night on one of my Instagram posts, what has she done to her face? She's unrecognizable. I was like, I've aged naturally. If we are in a place where people replacing their own face with a new face is what's normal, and aging naturally is unrecognizable, I don't love that for us as a culture.
Is it very hard in your line of work to resist that, though? Because obviously we do see the new faces all the time, and not just in the entertainment industry, in my industry too, in everyone.
Yeah.
Has anyone advised you to do it differently?
Yeah, I mean, I've gotten a lot of people suggesting I get Botox. And I'm like, this is my face. I want my face to move. I want my 4-year-old girl and my 9-year-old girl to see that we are allowed to naturally become the person that we were meant to be. I would rather see my own face aging than a brand new face. And this is not to shame women, because we are damned if we do, damned if we don't. Yeah. If I was rich, I'd probably have a new face, let's be real. If I had that money to throw away, I would look like a 20-year-old girl. And so, but you know, it's like if a woman gets plastic surgery, she's trying too hard, why would she do that? And if a woman doesn't, it's like, oh, she's getting old. So we can't win. So we have to start winning for ourselves. We have, and this is what my show is about. We have to just start saying like, honestly, who cares? Who cares? And what you think about me is none of my business.
Completely, completely. I mean, you have, as you said, spent much of your career on Broadway, and that, comes with companies and large casts. How exposing does it feel to do a one-woman show after all of that, and particularly one that is quite autobiographical?
It's vulnerable. I mean, Todd Almond, who is my music director, he's one of my dearest friends, and he's on stage with me. So I do feel he's 6'6", so I also feel his presence like a little guardian angel or a giant guardian angel behind me. But yeah, it's hard because I feel like if somebody doesn't laugh or if somebody doesn't like it, which you'll like it, it feels personal, where you're like, oh, you don't like me. But that's sort of the point of my show.
Well, it's kind of exposure therapy for a people pleaser,
isn't it? That's exactly right. It's exactly exposure therapy. And I have to walk the walk. I can't, go on stage and say, we have to stop caring what people think about us, and then be like, they didn't like me, which I still do.
Yeah.
I'll shed a tear.
Bless you. Well, on which note, are UK audiences different from US audiences, particularly in stand-up?
I would say this is what's interesting to me.
Tell us the brutal truth. You don't have to sugarcoat
it. Okay. I think UK audiences are more vocal in their following of the story. There's more, what? There's more of that happening. Like what I imagine Elizabethan Shakespeare was, where people were hearing it for the first time and gasping. So that is really cool. I think maybe not as easy of a laugh. I think Americans, a lot of times I'll feel them sort of zone out. They're not following it quite as gaspy, but they're bigger laughers. And I think in the States, we'll just stand at the end for anything. We're leaving now. That was amazing. And I think it's, when I get a standing ovation here, I'm like, ooh, that feels good.
We made you really, work for it.
Yeah, because it's not given easily, which I frankly prefer, you know? And I also appreciate in America, if one single person stands, everyone will stand. Here, no. 10 people were standing, the rest are like, I'm not doing it.
Oh no, we're happy to leave them standing on their own.
I won't do it. But I will say I love London audiences. I really, really do. And they've been so great. They have been laughing a ton and very warm and very supportive and really going on the journey with me. And also like a really wide demographic of people, young women, women my age, women older, boyfriends and husbands who are dragged there against their will. My favorite thing is when they come up to me afterwards and go, I didn't want to come, but I had a great time. I'm like, good.
Just take that.
Yes.
Just take that.
Highest of praise.
And how does it compare to Edinburgh audiences? Because I know you did Edinburgh last year as well.
I did. Yeah, we were saying Edinburgh is a more international audience. It's not just UK, although, you know, I would say primarily. Everyone is there for this very distinct thing. You know, I think it's a theater lover's dream. So the energy of it is very frenetic, you know, people needing to leave your show to run to their next show, you know. So that almost felt like camp, like summer camp. And this feels more like I'm in London doing my show. It feels very fancy. My children are asking if we can live here. My daughter also, anytime we leave a playground, is suddenly, she's like, goodbye, I've had such a wonderful time. I'm like, ma'am, you live in New Jersey. You live in New Jersey. Stop.
Obviously, we've got the midterms coming up in November and then 2 more years of them in the White House. Will you be very sad to say goodbye to playing Melania?
Nope. I mean, look, I'll probably play her forever. You know what I mean? I in some capacity, not on the Colbert Show, sadly, but I'll bring her out once in a while. People really love it, and it does bring people joy. And I think joy is resistance right now. You know, I do think it's so tempting and easy to just get sucked into how hard everything is. But when we do that, they win. You know, I really do think we have to the best of our ability, whilst being proactive, and, you know, we just have to have some joy. Otherwise, we're just going to be like, goodbye, you know?